Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Programming in Access 2013. My name is Steve Bishop, and today we're going to be talking about forms. Now, I'm going to back out over here to my Access database, and we're back to where we were last time. And first, we're going to go ahead and create a new form. The way you do that is you go over here to the Create tab, you click on that, and then you'll find Form Design. Now, obviously, we have other options here. We have the form, which basically allows me to kind of create a form in a wizard-like fashion. We've got blank form, form wizard, navigation, more forms, etc. I definitely prefer just going into the form design, just like I've mentioned for the table and the query. Just clicking on form design just kind of takes us to the designer window, which is where you're going to do all of your layout work. So I've got a blank form open here. And I'm just going to go over some of the things that we see here, because this is obviously very important to understand what are all these controls for, and what is this property sheet over here. Essentially, a form is a window that you want your application to present to the user. So, for example, if I just, now that I have my form here, if I click on View, you'll notice it's some sort of canvas. It's a blank screen right now. And I'm just going to drop a quick little control on here so that you can see. If I drop a text box onto here, oh, come on now. Just double click on here. Come on. There we go. Alright. So I've got my text box. I don't need it to be that big. I'm just going to resize a little bit there. And now if I click on View, you can see here's a text box with a label. So a form is basically a page that you are going to present to the user where they can type something in here, or if you want to display some specific piece of information for them, you can do that on a form. So I'm going to go back into my design view, and let's talk about some of the things that we see here. First of all, since a window is made up of different controls, like a text box and a label, the location you can find those different controls is under the Design tab are the different types of controls. We have a text box, label, button, tabs. I believe this is a hyperlink. This is a web browser control, and if I just hover the mouse over these actually tell me what each one of these are. So navigation control, option group, page break, combo box, chart. You could just create a line. So this is more or less for separation. So if I wanted to, and we'll go over each one of these a little bit, but just basically drawing a line so that I can help make some separation on some of these things. There's a toggle button, which is kind of like a series of buttons. We probably won't deal with toggle buttons too much. A list box, just a regular box, just if you want to draw a rectangle on your screen. Check boxes, pictures, attachments, radio buttons. The list kind of goes on, and you can explore each one of these controls as you go. But that's where you will find all of your different controls. Okay? Now, on the right-hand side here, we have the property sheet. And for each object in Access, if I click on something here, you'll notice that I have different properties of that object that I can change. I can say whether or not it's visible, for example. So right here it says it's visible, yes, right now. So if I view it, you'll see there's the line. But if I go back into the design view and I change it to not visible, you'll see then. Let's go to the designer view. You'll see that line is now missing. It's disappeared. It's still there. It's still in the design view. It's just now it's hidden. It's just one of those options, because this becomes obviously very handy if you want to hide controls from the user and then make them visible under certain circumstances, which happens all the time. You may want to make certain options only available if the user has selected something. Anyway, we're not going to get too far into that right now. I just want to continue on here with the property sheet. What's also very important to understand is that the window itself is obviously going to have properties as well. So if I click up here in this square up here, it's going to put a little black square inside of it, and that means I'm looking at now the properties of the entire form. So for example, the caption right now, if I just open this right now, it's just captions. It's just named Form 1. But if I go in here back into the design view and I change the caption now to main screen. Okay, and then I go and view it. Now you can see it changes to main screen. All right, so that is what the property sheet window is for. Now you're going to find in the property sheet window 5 different tabs. The format tab, which basically is kind of your layout. What are the different things that you can see, things like the caption and what type of view is it. The size. Am I going to fit to the screen? Am I going to auto resize? Am I going to center it? Etc. etc. All these different formatting options are going to be found here under the Format tab. Then under the Data tab is basically a source, because there's going to be something called binding. There's going to be binding to your form, which basically means these data sources, both queries and tables, are considered data sources. Okay, you can bind a data source, or what they're calling a record source. You can bind a record source to a form directly, and we'll be getting into that here pretty shortly, but I just want you to know that this Data tab is kind of your interaction between the underlying table or query and how that form is supposed to handle that data. Then you have Events, which are basically what happens if what happens when the form loads. And this is where we're going to get into the VBA code, because you can start programming that on certain events that occur on the window, or if you type something in the text box, I can make some sort of special event happen. And that's all in the background is going to be VBA code. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to the window, and I have other, which are just basically other things that don't really qualify under format, data, or event. So like a ribbon name, if we want to specify a specific ribbon to show up here when the form is opened, or toolbars, or should I allow the shortcut menu? Should I have a menu bar? Things that aren't necessarily under the format, data, or event. And then lastly, we have the All tab, which is basically all 4 of these just listed all together. All right. Unfortunately, there is no way to organize these alphabetically. I wish that Microsoft had put some thought into that. It would be obviously pretty nice if we could just, click on a button to make all of these different ones organized alphabetically. But instead, you're just going to have to get used to looking for things and knowing which tab to click on and where on that tab can I find the option that I'm looking for. Alright, so that's a brief introduction into forms. On the next video, we're going to actually start building a form that we're going to be interacting with our data with.